Hello, friends, and welcome back to a very exciting episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast. I am one half of your host, Jamie.
I am the other half, Mark.
And if you can believe it, we have literally just wrapped up a daytime pay-per-view. We just finished the highest grossing pay-per-view of all time, AEW All In. Boy, they did not disappoint.
It was the highest paid attended of all time.
Okay.
We don't know
My
if it's
apologies.
grossing. We don't know the numbers yet, but
well,
I'm
Tony
sure
Khan actually did say that he made $10 million so that he can confidently say that it's also the highest grossing as well.
He made $10 million.
Well,
either way,
the company did. Congratulations. It officially happened. 81,000 and I believe 35.
Somewhere in that.
Fans.
30-something, yeah.
Yep,
so over
attended.
81,000 fans in attendance. He said there was probably up to about 90,000 if you take consideration all of the staff members, all of the Wembley staff, all the AEW staff. Either way you look at it, 81,000, even if it was 80,000, even if it was 60,000.
Absolutely an incredible amount of people.
People thought that they would barely make 25,000
when
they announced this.
Packed. I mean, when they were doing Tope Suicidas, it was like they were cutting short because you only had, 4 or 5 feet before you started jumping into the barricades.
And the chanting was just absolutely on point. The crowd was into every match. It was loud. It was raucous. It was exactly how you thought it would be. But we have no time to dawdle. We have to get right into this. This whole pay-per-view was, I think it was 5 hours total. Started at noon. I think it was, 8 o'clock their time. I don't know. I think it's like 6 hours. Either way, we started off. We're not even going to talk about MJF Adam Cole taking on Aussie Open.
We'll talk about that later.
They end up winning the titles, but we'll get into that when we talk about the main event. Hook ends up defeating Jack Perry on the pre-show or the 0 hour.
Absolutely incredible match.
Great match.
Both guys killed it. I loved the like short limo that Jack Perry came in Hollywood
an FTW
style.
Championship should have done. There's no rules. You do what you do, and you get the win. And Hook got the win. Great performance by both of them. Jack Perry doesn't need that FTW championship. Honestly, Hook doesn't even need that FTW championship.
No, but Taz needs Hook to have the FTW championship.
I couldn't, you even said it when we were watching. Taz has got to be proud as hell of his son. 80,000 people, biggest stage bigger than what Taz has ever even been on.
Sure, in wrestling history, and here it is. His son is winning the FTW championship. His championship
that he created. That was it's not even a recognized champion.
Right, but as far as Taz knows,
it was on the biggest card in the world.
As far as Taz knows, that was the first international defense of the FTW championship.
Which is great.
Congratulations to Hook. Very entertaining. Great way to start off. Even just the 0 hour, it made, I think, anybody who second guessed wanting to get the pay-per-view after they watched the
Especially
0 hour,
that tag match.
You were in. You were absolutely in. But what better way to start off this pay-per-view than with the longest standing rivalry in all of this
all
entire
of AEW
card.
Right now, right. AEW Ring of Honor. CM Punk took on Samoa Joe for a real world's championship match. I don't know what we expected out of this. CM Punk gets the win. It was an absolute banger of a match. It was probably the first 2 matches of the pay-per-view were probably my I don't want to say my least favorite. Like I didn't enjoy them.
Yeah, it's not like anything was bad.
They were trying to set the pace, and they didn't quite get to it until they got to FTR versus Young Bucks. But
Agreed.
This was a good, solid match. I mean, it was
exactly what you wanted.
Yep.
There was a good Sweet Tooth reference and commentary. I think it was Nigel McGuinness.
Right.
First off, let me just say the commentary team
always
was
on fire.
Absolutely incredible.
WWE
Even the
really
0
take some
hour.
notes.
The 0 hour wasn't great. Renee Paquette is just an absolute gem, and the AEW is so
David
lucky
Otunga,
to have her.
They had Kip Sabian. They also had Paul White.
I loved it.
Unfortunately, we didn't see the return of Paul White's alter ego, Captain Insano. If you know, you know. The Waterboy, it was a very good movie. If you haven't seen it and you're too young to know what the hell I'm talking about, go watch it. It's so stupid.
Oh, it's worth it.
The commentary was absolutely on point the entire time. We saw Jim Ross.
Yep, Jim Ross was there. Cancer-free. Congrats to Jim Ross.
Congratulations.
Nigel McGuinness, of course, Excalibur. Tony Schiavone was there.
Right.
The absolute legends. It wouldn't have felt right without Jim Ross there.
No.
You get his intro is just incredible, and when you hear it live, it's absolutely insane. So hear it at Wembley, I couldn't imagine
biggest announcer
what that
for the
was
biggest
like.
Stage.
Yeah.
But CM Punk versus Samoa Joe, great match. Nothing over the top, oh my God, but it gave everybody exactly what they wanted, and I couldn't see it going any other way with CM Punk getting the win.
Absolutely agree.
Up next, we got Konosuke Takeshita and the Bullet Club Gold with Juice Robinson and Jay White took on the Golden Elite of Kota Ibushi. Oh, man, I said that terribly wrong.
Ibushi.
Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. This, you and I talked about this, and this was probably you and I just couldn't get into this match.
It was a different pace, and I think you brought up a good point. This was very much more of a Japanese style of a match.
Right, and I don't think
everybody here has fought in Japan.
And I don't think I was expecting that. I don't think I thought about that. But then when halfway through the match, when one of us, I don't remember who said it, had mentioned that, I started looking at it and going, well, all 6 of these guys really made their name in New Japan.
Sure, so it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Pace,
so once that happened, I was able to kind of appreciate a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But again, for the first half, it took me a little bit because I was looking for, we just came from MJF, Adam Cole, and Aussie Open, Hook, Jack Perry, and CM Punk and Samoa Joe. And it went into a kind of a different, like you said, it's a different pace. So it threw me off a little bit. I'm sure it might have thrown a couple other people off too, because that's not a style you normally see on American television.
Exactly, but it's something that all of these guys shine in.
Oh, of course.
If you know anything about New Japan, obviously being able to see the Golden Elite tag up together was absolutely fantastic. The match was great.
Juice was ridiculous.
Well, you got to give the credit to all of the intros. The entrances for everybody was fantastic. The way they set up like the Titantron and
it was a really good setup.
It was so good. My favorite by far entrance was Bullet Club Gold. They had Colton and Austin Gunn. They were shooting the guns up in the front because it was like almost like a hall. They had Colton and Austin Gunn shooting the guns. They had Juice. He was down on all 4 like a dog, like barking. And then you had Jay White behind him, and they really thought about what they were doing when they did that. It just it ignited a fire. I mean, it was great.
That cartoon with the 2 dogs, and one's usually like the small yippy like wiry one, and the other one's like a massive galoot.
Wasn't that cartoon called Two Stupid Dogs?
No. This is I'm talking like Looney Tunes. That was if I'm about to tell you who I'm talking about, I don't think you'd be calling them stupid. I feel like Juice Robinson is that little rat dog that's just yipping the entire time.
Okay.
And Brody King is that big dumb galoot dog that could literally beat the shit out of you in half a second.
Right.
But chooses not to. But with him like bent over yipping like that, that's all I can think of.
It was so funny.
Either way, Bullet Club Gold taking on the Golden Elite was phenomenal. Good match. Like I said, wasn't my favorite up until I kind of realized the pace of everything, and then it was able to suck me back in. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch this.
Well, also, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's set up Takeshita versus Kenny Omega for All Out. So really, it was
Tony Khan addressed that at the media
a little
scrum.
Pin in it.
Which I always forget about the media scrum after
you
these
would
pay-per-views.
think we wouldn't forget about it.
But lucky for me, everybody's beaten to hell, and they always want to get MJF or whoever's in the main event on there right from the get-go. So it took them like 20, 30 minutes to get it together. And it's actually funny, if you go back and watch the live stream, you see a couple of the guys just standing there having a conversation while they're setting up for the media scrum. But yeah, Tony Khan did confirm.
Tony Khan?
A reporter asked a question about, a singles match with Kenny Omega, and Don Callis said, Takeshita has been wanting to go up against his mentor to prove himself, for years now, and Kenny Omega's ducked him the entire time. And Tony Khan said, well, it sounds like a great idea. Let's have it all out, and we're going to have that next Sunday. Kenny Omega taking on Takeshita. Lots
Finally.
of things.
And a one-on-one. That's going to be really good.
Singles match. Yeah, so that'll be real good.
And after we saw that amazing 6-man tag match, we went right into another tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team Championship.
Not just that. It was for bragging rights on who's the best out of these 2 teams.
The rubber match between FTR and the Young Bucks.
Right. FTR claiming that they need to beat the Young Bucks in order to solidify their status as, a tag team legend.
I think they've already done that with the Briscoes, but
and the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks kind of made it seem like, this isn't about legendary status. You're just a notch in our belt, and we need to just prove that we're better than you. Unfortunately, the Young Bucks couldn't pull it through, and FTR are still your AEW Tag Team Champions.
Yeah, so nobody in the Elite actually won at Wembley, which I really do give them credit all the time, even though this is the company that they came up with and they're best friends. they don't just book themselves to win everything,
Well, I mean,
even in the
that's-
grandest stage of them all.
That's one of the reasons why Cody Rhodes has claimed that he went back to WWE was he felt that he couldn't put himself into that spotlight. That if he
Kenny
put
sure did.
that if he put a world title on his shoulder, that it would be tainted because everybody would say, "Oh, well, you're an EVP of the company."
It's really weird, though, because I always thought that was an interesting perspective, because the Young Bucks have been the tag team champions multiple times. Like I said, Kenny Omega has been the AEW champion.
The longest reigning. They put that. It was 364 days.
Very important that they keep throwing out that number.
Yeah, especially towards the main event when they said he's at MJF's at 285 days.
That's close.
I think, something like that.
That's close.
I think it was only like 60 days away.
Yeah,
so
that's insane.
That's a conversation for later in the
It
podcast.
is. But nonetheless, FTR Young Bucks, exactly like you thought it would be. It was absolutely phenomenal.
Oh,
Very
fast.
fast paced. Great match after, like you said, kind of a different, slower style of the Japanese kind of wrestling. Yeah, I mean,
Just old school, beat 'em up. You know, it hit
Lots of
them with
super
everything you
kicks.
got. Super kicks. They kicked out of shatter machines.
lots of kicks out of the shatter machines tonight.
Knees
Absolutely
and
incredible.
BTs and OMGs, and it was all of the moves that everybody was spamming the finishers tonight. Everybody,
Yeah, right.
Everybody was hitting finishers
spamming
left,
those
right, and
buttons.
center. They had their Game Sharks plugged in, and if you understand that
They
reference,
did.
I love you and thank you so much for joining here. at
You're
Coffee
old and your
Wrestling.
back probably hurts just like ours.
Right. But yeah, great match between the two of them.
I didn't really think FDR was going to retain, honestly.
I didn't either, and I'm not upset though.
I'm not.
I'm
They kind of needed a
excited
good win
to
like
see
that.
where we're going with this. This is now put. Who's next for FTR?
And now
who's the
Punk
next tag
and
team?
FTR are still the champion, so they can go back to Collision as the champions, which is a good
but
thing.
we still haven't even addressed Punk with that belt. Like nobody's gonna go and say, well, just because you spray paint an X on it and it's a belt that you had before doesn't.
Right.
It's not recognized as an AEW championship.
I mean, look at the FTW championship. I guess you can just do whatever you want to here.
I mean, isn't that
no, really.
Isn't that what everybody accuses AEW of, anyways?
Exactly. We still haven't touched on at all Jay White calling out CM Punk for his belt. Initially, he was the first person to say anything about whatever you have in that bag. I
And then
want it.
we've never come back to it.
I'm
so.
hoping we will after all this. Now that all this CM Punk and Samoa Joe stuff is more than likely over, but maybe never over really for the two of them.
I mean, it's Tony Khan. Who knows? He's got fantasy booking on his mind. So another match between. I mean, the third match between Samoa Joe and CM Punk was supposed to be the last one, and now we've got the fourth match at Wembley, and Punk
All
went
In's
over
already
with him
booked
again.
for next year, so you never know. They might just replay it back one more time next year too.
Yeah, actually, you got to remember we ate some pizza in between recording. It's the magic of recording, but AEW has announced that Wembley next year, I don't remember that, I think it's September 24th, will be All In.
I think it's the end of August
Whatever, it will be AEW All In again.
at Wembley.
And they're going to try and make both All In happening the bank holiday just before the American holiday of Labor Day, which is the next weekend, which will then also feature AEW's All Out.
Yep, in Chicago. Tony Khan said he'll make that a tradition. I think it's great. He said
you
it's
never
not really
know.
about the pay-per-view buys or the tradition.
Depending on if Jamie and I get our heads out of our ass, you might hear some rumors about Coffee and Wrestling maybe going over the pond to.
I mean,
maybe
why
go
not?
to
If
All
it's
In.
going to be a yearly tradition, we were looking for an excuse to have a really fun,
Vacation, getaway.
week-long vacation or something like that. So what better way to do it than hop over the pond and join the
Yeah, what's an 8-hour flight?
80,000 plus?
We can watch
I'm already doing it.
watch a lot of wrestling on an 8-hour flight.
Exactly.
We
So
can watch all those pay-per-views that everybody's asking us to watch.
yeah, hopefully by then we'll be so good with our podcasting that we'll be doing a podcast with Simon Miller by then.
Also, shout out to Simon Miller and his AEW debut. He was on the pre-show. It was
Pre.
I thought there was only an hour-long pre-show, so I got in, about an hour before. But apparently there was a couple things we had kind of missed. Will Hobbs had a promo with Miro, and Simon Miller was one of the security guards in the background that got their asses kicked at the end. So
Oh, that's so awesome.
good for him.
Happy
Good for him. Glad to see it.
The next match absolutely did not disappoint, and I
This
wasn't
is-
really sure how we were
This
going
is
to
where
do
it
it.
really picked up.
Yeah, this really started to pick up here. There was a stadium stampede match at Wembley. Listen, I just want to say one thing. We are not really talking about WWE, but unfortunately, we did lose Terry Funk this week. Rest in peace to Terry
along
Funk.
with,
Also,
Bray
Wyndham
Wyatt.
Rotunda.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Which House
So
of Black-
sorry to all of his family
House of Black
members.
did a great tribute to Bray Wyatt's character They walked out. We'll get to it, but they walked out with their with the lantern, set it down before they walked to the ring, which I thought was a absolute wonderful touch.
Very cool. At that point, it was already dark, so the fireflies were out.
Right. But we're not talking about that match.
Yeah.
Sorry.
At any rate, going back to what I was saying before,
we also lost Terry Funk, like you were saying.
We also lost Terry Funk in WWE. Unfortunately, hyped up a little bit too much that they were doing a ode to Terry Funk by having a tag match.
Great.
It was on Raw, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, because Cody Rhodes was
SmackDown.
there.
It was on SmackDown.
Oh, it was SmackDown?
You're right.
Okay, Cody Rhodes introduced the Street Profits versus
Brawling Brutes.
Brawling Brutes, thank you very much. And it was supposed to be like a Terry Funk hardcore match. There was one table spot, and that was it.
At the end.
Wasn't
a single weapon.
This Stadium Stampede match that happened at Wembley, like, they've been setting up for something like this for years.
Right.
They've had these, like, brawls, these parking lot brawls, which really played into this.
They've dabbled in the hardcore scene. I wouldn't call this a death match.
They've had a Stadium Stampede before.
Well, they have had a Stadium Stampede. The only difference was...
Did I say they didn't? Because I meant that they did.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, they've had a Stadium Stampede match before. It was in an empty arena, however.
Correct.
So they had a lot more leeway as to what they could do. And I think they did the absolute best they could do with a packed house. And again, it was victim to so much going on that it was hard to keep the cameras on the action at all times.
Of course, there are a lot of guys in here. And real quick, let me go over the rundown of who was in this match. We had Eddie Kingston, Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, and Trent Beretta versus Penta El Cero Miedo.
Penta was on their team.
And Penta El Cero Miedo, I'm sorry, which we'll go into that. There's more to that, too. And it was versus the Blackpool Combat Club, Mox, Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, also Santana, and Ortiz.
Returning for the first time, Santana. We haven't seen him in...
Correct.
Since
even Ortiz,
Blood and Guts,
we haven't seen.
The previous Blood and Guts, not this previous one. Just having one last year. Rumored that he was having some issues with Ortiz and with creative, and he also had an injury, so he was out. So glad to see that he was back into it. And my God, these 10 men, they put on a hell of a show. And
they
like
really
I said,
did.
Some parts fell victim, and you could be super overcritical about this and be like, oh, well, they missed this and they missed that.
They did their best to try to capture everything.
There's so much stuff going on, and especially when you've got 6 men in the ring and you've got 4 men over by the concession stands.
Right.
You know, you can't have the timing perfect every time.
No. This was great, though, because it almost seemed like, maybe from an outsider's perspective, that it was kind of a random assortment of people. But
not when you sit down and look at it.
Yeah, the amount of storyline that was just throughout this match, going through, like, picking who was going to go against whom. Of course, Eddie Kingston right away went after Claudio.
But he's also best friends with Mox.
Right, so that comes into play there. You have the best friends who were taking on Santana and Ortiz. They've had a parking lot brawl before.
And as well as Orange Cassidy, who's one of the best friends.
Right, who
mentored Wheeler,
who went up against each other a lot in this match.
And then, of course, you've got Penta El Zero. He's got a storied history with Moxley.
Right.
It was like sitting down and looking at everybody there. It was like everybody fighting each other. It made sense.
It did.
You know, even Santana and Ortiz taking on, Penta. It was like you've got two, I don't want to say brother tag teams, but, Santana and Ortiz are practically short of, relation, blood related. They're brothers, so you have like two prolific tag teams that, just, of course you put them in the ring. They're going to be like, nah, I'm going to beat your ass because I'm better than you. Both of them have no chance of standing down from the other one.
Absolutely.
So you know what I mean? But yeah, the back and forth between everybody was just great. You had so much story between everybody, and everybody had a reason to fight everybody. And it wasn't it didn't feel like just they were there to be there because they needed a body.
Exactly. There was intention behind, like, the attacks.
Yeah.
And the weapons. There were barbed wire bats. There were tables with barbed wire.
There were so many weapons.
There was Legos. Again, Legos. That was seen at Ring of Honor.
There was
oh my God, what else did they bring out there? Orange Cassidy at one point broke a glass bottle, wrapped his hand in tape backwards
so the sticky was on the outside.
Right, and then shoved his hand into a bucket, covering that hand in just shards of broken glass.
Moxley then tried to kill him by throwing him into the glass, but Orange reversed it and drove Moxley's face into the glass. It was impressive. Like, it was
Orange
a well
took a
done.
beating.
Oh yeah, everybody did. But yeah, Orange was bleeding pretty heavily.
He's not one to usually take bumps
Trent
like
was
that.
bleeding heavily.
Of course, John. I mean, that goes without
Yeah.
saying.
Claudio took some bumps. Eddie, there's a
Trent was
absolute
bad.
The sickest photo of Eddie with after all the match. He's got blood on his face. He's wearing his New York. I think it was a Mets shirt.
John Moxley had like a chunked, like hanging off of his
His
eyebrow,
eyebrow
like skin.
was. There was if you looked at the ropes, there was chunks of something hanging off the ropes. Not a lot, but great back and forth. Like, they really put
Sue
on
was
a
there.
hell of a match. Sue was there. They had
perfect.
baked goods. Yeah, it was great.
Cookie sheets.
It really, like, that. This is the match that, like, all of a sudden kicked this pay-per-view into overdrive, and it never slowed down from this point on.
It really did, and that's a great way of putting it. It really put like a cannon behind it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
the force behind everything afterwards.
crowd
And not
was-
that it was bad before.
The crowd was into everything, but this, like, really started getting people
It
to
did.
pop. The
It
chants
did.
were coming through. I mean, the chants with FTR were ridiculous. We won't even go into that because we don't want to talk about the bad stuff of wrestling. But
21 minutes we got of that stadium stampede, and it
which,
was
I mean, you got 10 people. That's a lot.
brutal.
That's a lot of
It was brutal.
airtime.
I do have to say one part that I really, really loved. Penta took a nasty bump. I don't remember exactly what it was, and it was selling that his neck was hurt. Rolled out.
Oh, that's right.
Doc Samson was like, "Yep, he hurt his neck.
It was
like,
one of
he's
those.
out."
Like, it was one of those. He hit the spot happened, and he immediately was like, "Ow, ow, ow!" Rolled out, and like, "Oh, okay." And if you watch enough wrestling, you're like, "Okay, it's storyline hurt." He's like trying to stay off the ring for a minute. He's whatever. But immediately they picked him up and they walked him to the back. But he was like, his reaction didn't seem like he was hurt, but it was very like, okay, maybe he really is kind of hurt. Like,
but there's
that
so much
sucks.
going on, so you almost forget. Oh shit, Penta's
Yeah,
out.
they didn't make a big deal about it either. Which, again, that's not just something you do. When you're trying to highlight that he's hurt, you're trying to like, oh wait, he's hurt. Let's leave him off camera.
Right,
Let's like
exactly.
skirt around, and that's exactly how they did it. So it's like, oh shit, Penta really got like fucked up.
Yeah,
On
but
that
we're
one.
moving on. There's so much going on. It was
Well,
hard
yeah,
to
now it's only
hard to keep track of everything.
And you even pointed it out that Santana like made a big like deal about it. He was pointing to him and to try and sell like, hey, why isn't if he's out, then that means that should be the end of the match.
The
And
doc
ref
was
like,
holding his
no.
neck, kind of like indicating like, oh, it's his
he's
neck.
injured. We can't, and Santana like threw up his arms like this is bullshit. So they really even like played into it, and you're like, oh shit, like this might be not kayfabe.
Right.
But I'll let you continue. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it was great because eventually, like again, as soon as you forgot about it, Penta Obscuro.
His
His music hit. So then, like, the dark essence of Penta comes out and wrestles the rest of the match. And
No, he didn't wrestle the rest of the match. He came out and put Santana through that. There was an unfortunate ladder spot that they had to set it up weird, and he ended up falling through. But they recovered. And I got to give Alex Alejandrez all the props in the world.
man.
He got that ladder reset back up, and they were able to put Santana through the table like that. But yeah, great match all the way
angles,
around.
very
all the way
entertaining.
around. Orange Cassidy, best friends, and
Somehow
crew,
they won.
They ended up getting the win, and now during the media scrum, of all people, Orange Cassidy has now got a new challenger come Wednesday of Penta El Zero Miedo. I don't know if it's Penta
Yes.
Obscuro, but he was back in the black and white when he was in the press conference. So
amazing.
that'll be happening Wednesday
for the international
championship.
Correct.
And then whoever wins that match at All Out will face John Moxley and defend the international title
Correct.
again. So Orange Cassidy, he is at 30 defenses. He could possibly be up to 32 defenses by the end of All Out next week.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's
Why?
insane.
One of the best champions that
Honestly,
has
the
existed
best.
in the past 10 years. He's
The
got
best.
30 defenses in I don't know even how
Less than
much
a year.
time. It's been
He's 40
phenomenal.
years old.
This run has been great. I
love it.
So about Orange Cassidy. Call me a mark for him. I don't care.
I love it.
I absolutely love it.
Tony Khan brought up something really interesting about Penta. If Penta wins this international championship, he would be the first person to ever hold the international belt, the trios belt,
Right.
and also the tag team
I
belt.
don't don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening, but I really do
I love
like
Penta.
that Tony Khan.
He's the only action figure that we own in this house.
That's my dude. Butch isn't here yet.
I got to figure out when that comes in. We bought AEW's Butch. We'll have to get Blade and Bunny as well.
Of course.
This is going to open up a horrible habit of
I was
buying
afraid to buy it for
characters.
you. It was a secret, and I was like, oh, hey, I bought this. Because I'm telling you, I'll take a picture of it. I'll try to post it on
It's the best
Twitter at CAW Wrestling Pod. His tattoos are perfect. The
They've got
gear's
two
perfect.
variations.
The hands are
they've
perfect.
got the black and white, which I think was the earlier edition.
Okay.
And then they have the black and gold, which was the next season. But then they've got Phoenix is the other way around.
Yeah, the dope Phoenix is the one that doesn't go with the dope Penta.
We'll just have to get all of them. Yeah. We'll just get all of them.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're getting back. We're getting so far off topic.
Anyways,
but up next,
all angles, fantastic match.
Up next, we had the AEW Women's World Championship up for grabs between Hikaru Shida, Toni Storm, Britt Baker, and Saraya. And
the women did not disappoint.
They did not. And the ending of this, I absolutely loved. I thought that this was a very great way to put everybody over and not make anybody look weaker than anybody else, because I know there's been a lot of criticism of the AEW women's or just women's wrestling in general. The only criticism that I can see that holds any water was the only women's match, and it only had 9 minutes of runtime. I don't know what to say. I think the match was perfect. I don't think going. I think going any longer would have been a little bit too much. I mean, you could have probably eked out a couple more minutes and not feel like it was a watered down match.
I think it was great. I think the story was really important here.
Right.
They set so much up for, the next possible rivalry between Toni Storm and Saraya. Possibly Mercedes was watching in the crowd. Mercedes Moné was out there
throwing
watching.
Up the scissors when the Acclaim were out there.
Yeah, right. I honestly, my initial thought was, I think both of us thought was Shida was going to be able to retain here.
100%.
The last person I thought, even though they were in England, to actually be able to take up this belt was Saraya. She ended up getting it. And it was really interesting because she ended up going up against with Toni Storm like the entire time. Toni accidentally hit Saraya's real mom, who is also Saraya as a wrestler, but this is in England. Hit her mom, and then now it kind of added that dynamic between Saraya and Toni that you knew was going to happen, but you weren't sure exactly how it was going to go down.
I think that was when Saraya decided, like, I'm not wrestling for the outsiders. I'm wrestling for the Knight family, my family, the Saraya Knight, you know what I mean? Or the Outcasts, yeah. I think that's when it turned into finally like this match. It's a 4-way. It's not a 2 versus 1 versus 1. It's a 4-way match.
Right.
And I really enjoyed watching Toni Storm kind of get in like a groveling, like, don't hit me, like, wait a minute, hold on, didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
But then have to finally strike her companion,
Right. She was like hesitant, but this is what I have to do,
and then, Ruby Soho comes running out, which we always make the joke. It's got to suck to fly all the way overseas, 8-9 hours to just show up and get punched in the face. And Toni Storm, it was Toni Storm ends up hitting Ruby Soho out of anger, and then she just runs off. So they're in shambles. Saraya is your new AEW Women's Champion, and I said it before, I absolutely love the way that they ended this.
It was really good.
You had Hikaru Shida was in the lockjaw from Britt Baker. She was having a hard time getting her fingers into the mouth of Hikaru Shida, even though she was screaming like every 2 seconds with her mouth wide open. As Toni Storm and Saraya slide in, they both do the most illegal things they could with each other, and Saraya ends up taking the advantage of Hikaru Shida being resistant enough to Britt Baker and fucking gets the win with on Toni Storm. And I thought it was
used the spray paint
great.
in her face. It was really good. I really enjoyed it.
It was awesome. I don't know what else people wanted from this match. Like, I think
probably their favorite person to win,
I think it was a shame that more women weren't featured on this card.
Agreed.
But at the same time, I have no problem with the way that this match went.
Yeah, at least there was no complaints.
And sue me for enjoying a women's wrestling match.
I really enjoyed it too.
Like in the pop when she won. The pop was
family.
so good. Her family,
Especially if you've been
the
somebody-
entire crowd, the hometown crowd, basically. Come on.
We were literally there, not there, but we were watching when Paige debuted in the main roster for WWE and won that Divas Championship.
Oh yeah,
It's
Huge
crazy
pop.
to see something like that, and then now to where she is.
So worth it. So
And,
worth
and her
all of it.
interview afterwards was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. So I'm hoping that she will continue to do extremely well. She's great on the mic. I don't know what they're doing with the Outcast. Obviously, Tony is definitely doing her own Marilyn Monroe disgruntled movie star thing.
I feel
which
like she's
I'm
out of it.
Into.
I feel like she's out of it, but I mean, maybe it's time to get Ruby Soho out of that too, because it hasn't done her any favors.
It hasn't.
It's dyed her hair a color green that I really like, but
Why? Because that's what color my hair is?
yeah, but you know what I mean? Like but I feel like it hasn't done a lot for her, and I feel like she's one of those talents that came from WWE that just has not found a footing in AEW.
Unfortunately, no. I have to agree with you there.
But yeah, hopefully we see a lot more. I mean, she's even said that she wants to do more singles matches because Soraya's only had four singles matches since debuting in AEW. So.
And it only felt right to have Sting and Darby Allin teaming up, to do a coffin match of all things, again, at Wembley Stadium against what originally was Swerve Strickland and AR Fox,
Right.
but ended up being Swerve Strickland and Christian Cage, which he has so much history with Sting, with TNA.
Yep.
Sting was doing his Joker thing. Oh my God, like the video beforehand when they came out.
Oh, so good.
So good.
I'm sure Darby Allin ended up directing that or had something to do with that. It was very well produced.
I loved it. Sting took some of his absolute hardest bumps. He did a table spot.
Twice.
I am the table.
He
It was
said
not
he
able
the
to
table.
break.
Right.
He actually jumped back up and got a dope shot of it. I don't remember who it was.
It was Swerve.
It was Swerve.
It was Swerve.
Going through the table. Absolutely incredible. He just never gives up.
No, he always performs. Every time we've seen him, we saw him live at Revolution. He jumped through was like 8 tables. I don't even remember. He
like
always, even when he fucks up, he always delivers. He smashed his face the last time he took a table spot. I think on Ethan Page, or I might be wrong there, but ended up splitting his face open and still finished the match. Like
right.
At almost 60 years old, or no, he's older than 60, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
He always delivers. He always does the spots. He always does those things that people are like, no, a 60-year-old man wouldn't do that. And here goes Sting jumping off and doing not just one, but 2 table spots. He lands on him and table doesn't break. He looks up and goes, okay, well, I got to do it again. Gets back up on the apron and does it. The way he did it, too, was he laid all the way across Swerve so that all of his body weight got dropped on the top of the table.
Right.
So he knew they were going through. So it had to hurt.
It was great.
It had to hurt, even on a behind the kayfabe.
Oh yeah, for sure.
His entire body weight landed on top of Swerve, on top of that table.
Also, at one point, Sting was in the coffin and Swerve was trying to close it on top of him, so he did that donkey kick to Sting's face.
So good.
Before he tried to close it. In the long run, Swerve was the one to go into the coffin.
Right, but there might be some contention.
Depending on who you ask, we were watching it laughing
if you really
so hard.
How nitty gritty you want to get with the rules.
Swerve's dreads were sticking
Swerve's
out. But
he had 3 dreads sticking out of the top of the coffin. Does that count? Does hair count?
Fingies count.
Fingies count, but you got blood pumping through them fingies. It's a living thing, Hair's not.
Dreadies apparently not.
Do dreadies count?
No.
I guess
Sting and Darby Allin are, I think, 19-0.
19-0 as a tag team. I still say that's the way you finish off Sting's career. Is you have him wrestle Darby Allin, whether it's for the championship, whether it's for
it's a passing of the torch from one generation to the next.
I think that's how you. Sting finally looks at Darby Allin and says, I can't show you anything else. The only thing you can do is
you're
beat
the master,
me, the student becomes the master by beating the master and becoming,
Yep, and you don't have to have a heel in that situation. It's just just give me your best.
Imagine the match. What we were going off of earlier, he always delivers, does what he needs to do to entertain the fans. Imagine between him and Darby Allin, who's Darby Allin puts his body on the line every time he's out there because he knows that's his best asset. That he can bring that. He can bring the realism of just getting the shit kicked out of you and without...
I don't know how he continues to go.
And just never giving up and never not standing back up.
No, it's the true resilience moniker that he's always gone by.
Really good to see Nick Wayne out there too. Luchasaurus, he made a cameo and then ended up bringing Dwayne. Oh, yeah, he took that spot on the skateboard,
and
the
it didn't
choke
break.
slam.
I am the table. I'm the
if
skateboard.
you've ever skateboarded in your entire life and you've landed on a board, you know that feeling. He got choke slammed from Luchasaurus, a 7'1" dinosaur, 2.5 billion years old. And yeah, boy, that boy's back is gonna be bruised. I hope he's got first class accommodations on the way home. Man, he's gonna need a massage. He's gonna need some ice. He's gonna need some Bengay. He's gonna need something. But yeah, that was a really good match.
It really was. But speaking of passing the torch, the perfect way to pass the torch was this next match between Will Ospreay, what do they call him, the aerial assassin, versus the GOAT,
a 30-year-old
Ocho,
prodigy,
the lion tamer,
the painmaker,
God,
Chris Jericho,
the David Bowie of wrestling.
I didn't have a lot of hype for this match in the beginning. There was not a lot of build up for it.
Right.
And this was a lot of complaint of a lot of matches with AEW All In. But they had the contract signing between Darby Allin. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. Between Will Ospreay and Chris Jericho.
That really amped it up.
It looked like a legitimate beef between these two guys.
Jericho's so good on the mic, and I think people forget. Like, it's so natural to him.
Yeah, because he
just
has that.
Go out and say anything.
He's been doing the whole sports entertainment idea to where, you say the campy lines and you say the catchphrases and you say the things you put on T-shirts and you talk about how you love this hat. So to hear him actually pick up a microphone and cut a promo on an individual like an actual promo that isn't sports entertainment,
right.
It reminds you of how good he is on the mic.
Absolutely.
That he's not just a gimmick. That he's as well rounded as he comes off.
Right.
And then you look at Will Ospreay.
Who's just on a huge run right now.
Oh yeah.
He's beat Will Ospreay has beat Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada, and now potentially Chris Jericho, which he does. It did exactly what Will Ospreay needed. And again, not that Will Ospreay needed this because he is just on such a high right now and has also mentioned his contract with NJPW is up within the next 6 months.
I argue that he did need this because he's gotten to the top of his level.
Maybe to the American audience that doesn't know Will Ospreay, this is a great way to do it. You have those legendary tally marks like those three guys that you've beat just this year.
Right.
This year.
But even, if you want to advance yourself as a professional wrestler, and he has expressed that he would have been happy spending his entire career at NJPW. He absolutely loves NJPW. He believes it is the purest of the sport.
He shines really well there.
And there's no shame in getting to the top of NJPW and being this is the top of the mountain. But if you're looking to make the money, if you're looking to get the prestige and the gluttonous accolades that a lot of WWE and now even AEW stars have, then you've got to go above and beyond what you already are. And at the point that Will was already at, I don't think there was any more that he could go. Like, he's hit the top of the pile.
Right.
He's beaten, like you said, Okada. He's beaten Omega. He's now beaten Chris Jericho, one of the United States top wrestlers of all time.
Right.
And now has got his footing, like you said, in the American television circuit. He's been featured on AEW's Forbidden Door. He's now been in All In.
Right.
You could argue you've got
great G1 run.
You've got United Empire, Aussie Open, who's part of United Empire.
Right.
Is been signed.
The whole
to
crew
AEW.
is just incredible. Yeah. So it only makes sense for him to continue with that.
Yes.
I mean,
I
obviously,
can't see how this was
selfish,
a bad thing.
Want him to? No, this wasn't bad for anybody. Chris can take the loss. It's not a big deal. It's a passing of the torch.
I loved how they sold this. Like, they sold everything that I just said about Will Ospreay, but Chris Jericho also clapped back. Like, you're coming from the bottom to the top. I'm at the top, and everybody's trying to knock me down off the top.
I mean, he killed it.
He says, you
really
think
did.
You have more riding on this match than I do? I have my entire career riding on this match.
Right.
You're talking about the middle of your career.
Right.
He's like, I am the GOAT. I am the best. I have standards that people hold me up to.
Yeah.
And I loved how they sold this to where it was a senseless dream match, but they gave it so much more life than
Exactly.
just, well, we want Chris Jericho to fight Will Ospreay because it's going to put asses in seats.
Oh, sure, and it sounds
put asses
interesting.
in seats just because of what we were looking at. We have a potentially, he's 30 years old. He is at the peak of his career and at the peak
Absolutely.
of his, athleticism. And he just beat Chris Jericho. And there's what we do with him from here on out is the most exciting part of the end of that match.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, no matter what happened throughout all of that, the potential of Will Ospreay is just so intriguing.
Oh yeah, and with, like you said, with his contract coming up, and he said January 1st, 2024 is when his contract comes up. Or no, that was MJF. I'm sorry, I'm getting my
Oh yeah, that's right.
He just said 2024. It's a hell of a fucking bargaining coin. MJF of all people, and I said this: if AEW picks up Will Ospreay, and they'd be stupid not to retain MJF. If I don't get a Will Ospreay and MJF feud, I will. I know.
What are
so
we doing
upset.
in wrestling?
Oh my god! I don't. You even said it. We don't need matches. I don't need matches. I just need them to have
exactly.
promos.
Just mics.
I just want to have them talk shit to each other.
Exactly.
Like, who better than MJF and Will Ospreay, two of the oh my god! I'm gonna get down off my soapbox.
The next generational talent.
We'll be on this podcast for 45 more minutes about how insane that would be.
Absolutely. Hey, it might not be so much of a dream.
Oh, I know.
Here in the next few months. All right, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed, very important to say Billy Gunn, not Daddy Ass. Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed went up against House of Black, who is obviously Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, and Brody King. They picked the stipulation of
No holds barred.
No holds barred, yeah.
Julia Hart was also in ringside with House of Black, of course, and first and foremost, like I said, they had that wonderful tribute to Bray Wyatt, and the outfits that they picked, all white with gold trim. Oh my god, color me happy. I was like, if I could get a boner from having or looking at outfits, that was like I would wear that while nobody was in the house.
It looked good. Julia looked great in the white and gold as well.
The hat, she's been coming out with that like stained glass hat lately, and
I love it.
The way they did it, it's the same thing, but the white and the gold. Oh, it's so good. Just their presentation.
The makeup
has always been over the top.
The intro is one of the best.
If you know anything about like the hardcore scene and death metal, like Image is like 90% of what these bands are, and my god, they with the knowledge that these three men have, they've absolutely nailed the presentation of House of Black.
They did.
I absolutely love it.
They
it's
did.
So good.
Their intro here was fantastic. Little nod to Bray Wyatt, which literally I was like, damn, I wasn't ready for this. I'm crying. And as I'm like wiping the tears away, it dawned on me. I was like, oh my God, Max Caster is about to spit a rap in front of 81,000 people at Wembley. He did a fantastic job.
He must have been working on that for
Great
weeks.
pop. It sounded so well. It's crazy to have been able to watch AEW for so long and see people like the Acclaimed just grow into the characters that they are. How much people love them. Bowens
Unknown
is
nobodies that would never get a pop to begin with, and now 81,000 scissoring in the entire arena. It's so good.
Billy Gunn, who is 59 years old, looks. He's absolutely incredible. I mean, best shape of his life. Looked great in the ring. The Acclaimed looked phenomenal.
Oh, looks so good. It
just felt like they were going to win this with Billy Gunn, putting his boots in the ring and declaring that he was retired and him ended up coming back. It just felt like that was exactly what was going to happen, and it did. It felt good. I mean, it wasn't a super long match.
And even House of Black, they respected the win. They ended up having the titles, and instead of doing some heel shit that you would think that a dark and broody, trios tag team would do, they handed over the belts and they rolled out of the ring and they walked on knowing that they got bested. And then we had, like I said, an 81,035 people scissoring party, and Daddy Ass scissored, and it was phenomenal. It was exciting.
It felt so good.
Everybody in the match, all six men, they all looked equals. Like, even though Brody King and Billy Gunn are the size of a house, and then you have Buddy Matthews that is built like a house,
right?
And you just all six of the men, none of them looked weak.
Oh, absolutely
which
not.
is easy to do with the Acclaimed. It's kind of like I don't know, like Max
seems
Caster
like
doesn't
there's
come
all
off as a
gimmick.
very powerful guy. He's very
Right.
technical and he's good, but he's not a very he's not power slamming Brody King over the ropes.
Right.
But none of them looked bad. They even had Brody King and Max Caster
Right.
going one-on-one for a minute, and Max Caster was able to look just as impressive as everybody
Absolutely.
else.
They are, and I hate to be like, this team is like this team in WWE, this person's like this person in WWE, but they really remind me of the New Day.
Who's that?
The Acclaimed and Daddy Ass.
Right.
With just that charisma. They can come out, everybody's
Super
yelling.
hype,
the Scissor Me, the Acclaimed
If
every
you've got
Wednesday.
a dead crowd, you stick them out there, and that crowd's popping.
Oh, man. And it's crazy because you talked about going to Revolution. That wasn't this year. That was last year that we went.
Right.
And when we went, the Acclaimed did like the pre-show before anything aired. Like they weren't even on the card.
Right.
They were like standing in an alleyway eating pizza, and we didn't want to be those like weird guys like, hey, I know you're eating, but
Aren't you that guy on AEW?
yeah, exactly. So they weren't even on the card. So to think how far they've come in literally just a
they've
year.
become a fan favorite.
Incredible.
If you don't know where the scissoring thing came from, when they came out, they've been doing the Acclaimed, for like the A. There was one episode that Max Caster just reached over and started scissoring Anthony Bowens. And I don't remember what episode it is, but if you watch it, you see Anthony Bowens looks at Max Caster like, yo, what are you doing? We're going to get in trouble. And
they did actually get in trouble.
and
They were like, don't do that.
It started catching on. So it's one of those things that it was like, well, we weren't really supposed to do it, but people really got into it.
Yeah. So what choice did they have but to say, keep
And they
going
just
with it?
leaned into it. And now it was, I mean, it's been amazing. Like
Right.
it's been their like entire persona, but it has like lifted them to the next level
Exactly.
of being fan favorites.
Yeah,
And-
81,000 people screaming "Scissor Me, Daddy Ass."
And then now they've got gold or silver. They kept calling it gold, but there's no gold on the belt. So I don't know if we're going to go back to. I hope they do something.
I think they will. I think
Some
that
pink
should
belts,
be an exclusive.
pink with gold, some tacky ass belts. Let's go.
I like it.
Let's go. Some pink gold. There we go.
I like it. Friends, we have come to the moment, the most important moment of the night.
This is the
Two
potty break.
things.
Hold on. This is your opportunity to pause this, take a pee-pee, go get a drinky poo, go take
Things
a
are
poo-poo,
getting
whatever you
serious.
got to do. This is some professional goddamn wrestling tonight.
Absolutely incredible. And I have spent days in our personal household saying, how do you think this match is going to go down? I'm driving in the car. I have 15 minutes alone. I'm not even listening to music. And I'm like, I wonder how this MJF and Adam Cole match is going to go down. I can't stop thinking about it. Maxwell Jacob Friedman, Adam
I had
Cole.
more ideas 5 minutes before the bell rang than
I had some ideas 15 minutes
my
into
God.
the match.
Okay, so let's start. We're going to start with, we didn't talk about it, the first match of the night.
Correct.
Setting off AEW All In 0 Hour.
Great way to do
It was Better Than You, Bebe, taking on Aussie Open for the ROH World Tag Team Championships. A tag team championship that has eluded Adam Cole for his entire career. He's been a multi-time world champion in ROH. He has had, I believe, the TV title.
This is something I don't think he's ever had before. And that's why it was so
and of
important
course
to him.
MJF being turning into this not just a scumbag but our scumbag, our
but
favorite scumbag.
Yeah, the biggest baby face also at the same exact time.
And the amount of people trying to theorize, oh, this is going to happen. Oh, this is going to happen.
Oh,
no,
I'm
this is
guilty
gonna
of it
happen.
too.
MJF's going to turn. No, MJF's going to get hurt. No, I mean, we did it too. Like, it was this big talking point, and nothing happened. MJF and Adam Cole won the ROH tag team titles from Aussie Open.
Clean
as a whistle.
No
And
Dynamite Diamond Ring, no championship.
nothing. No double cross. No.
There was a double
making
clothesline.
MJF work more than Adam Cole or vice versa.
There was a double clothesline
There's
and
a
a kangaroo kick.
like-
a double kangaroo kick.
And it was a fairly quick match. Let me scroll back up here. It was less than 8 minutes. But no shenanigans. Neither one of them looked cross at each other the entire time.
but it made you feel good. And again, made you want to buy the pay-per-view.
And then immediately following them winning, they dropped the titles, and it's down to business. These two looked at each other, and it was on. It was the ROH titles are a thing of the past. It was time for the main event. Like, it was. I love this
like, cool,
dynamic
but-
because it's got unfinished business. You've got the tag team title winners,
Right. First match of the night.
They haven't even celebrated. They haven't had like a congratulations to each other.
Right.
We're already into the main event, and it's left a giant question already through the entire pay-per-view of what are we going to see now?
Right.
Because it doesn't matter.
You can't just have a plain old match between these two at this point.
And not just that. It doesn't matter the outcome of the championship match. I mean, it does. But in regards to the tag titles, it doesn't matter because you're still going to have the AEW World Champion and the other guy who didn't win the match.
Right.
And there's still going to have to be a cohesive tag team. So you're already
so how do you keep the story going?
So from the get-go, you're like, what are they doing?
Right.
What are they going to do with this tag titles?
Because now that they have them.
They have this is like you said, what are they doing? What's going to know this is going beyond all
But you know
now.
this, you know the story now. So now I'm really invested because now the story is going to continue. I really didn't think they were going to win it.
I think the most intriguing part was there was no shenanigans.
No.
There was nothing. Nobody tried to pull nothing. It was just a match. It
teamwork.
It was so good. It was so good. They didn't try to play into the, one of them got hurt.
Nope.
They didn't try into nothing.
No.
Absolutely nothing.
They didn't play into Adam Cole not reading the contract and just signing it. It was nothing. There was literally nothing in that was any type of double crossing or anything negative.
And then and then the main event was, oh my God, the main event was so good.
I mean, of course, we've seen them fight before. They went to a 30-minute draw,
which was
not too long ago.
Even just in that 30-minute match was amazing.
It was.
And
how do you beat that? You know,
and they got you are a liar if you had that on your AEW bingo card when they had that first 30-minute match.
Yeah, it almost seemed random.
Nobody saw that coming where it was like 1-2 and then the bell rang because it was 30 minutes. Not a soul saw
Watching
that.
the replay, they actually showed it with Bryce Remsburg, and he stopped so close. And it was just like, I remember for days after that match, I was like, wow, that was so unique. So I knew they had something special here. I knew, again, it wasn't just going to be a plain old match and it was over with, but it was really interesting what they did with the ending here. And bear with me as I explain. They obviously are having a fantastic match, and I don't even know, they go about 20 minutes or so.
Right.
And they both look at each other, Adam Cole and MJF, they both look at each other and they scream double clothesline. They've already done it earlier in the night. It worked out great.
Which, first off, before you go any further, why would you do this?
I don't know, but I'm already hearing them yell it, and I'm like, well, how the hell are you going to do anything with this? They clothesline each other.
Yeah, one of those like are
pin
they
each other accidentally.
Well, they both fall simultaneously.
Right.
And their right arm is what the one they
Extended.
clothesline extended across the chest of the other one. They both land at the same time. Bryce drops to the ground and with two hands counts 1, 2, 3.
It's a double count out.
Bell.
Yeah.
And I think everybody in the crowd was like, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, and I'm like, that's not it. There's more.
Oh, of course
it's Bryce Remsburg. There's more. There's so much more to this story. We're not done.
And yeah, Bryce calls for the draw. The Dapper Yapper ends up saying it over the microphone that it is a double pin and it is a draw. And we go back to that match 2 months ago with Adam Cole and MJF in that 30-minute timeout when Adam Cole's sitting on his knees staring at MJF and says 5 more minutes over the microphone. And he does it again. He looks at MJF and he says 5 more minutes.
And MJF says no, and we're like, what? That's it? That's it?
Well, you think like, oh my God, this is like the pivotal moment. This is the moment that we find out, is this going to be classic MJF and we go to heel way like everybody thinks he's going to go?
Right.
I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I thought that he was going to turn. Or do we go the other route?
New MJF.
The way that no one thought was going to happen. And
Adam Cole's best friend.
He tells him no. He says, we're going to go for as long as we need to until we get a win at fucking Wembley. And the crowd, oh my God, they throw the mic down, they ring the bell.
I look over, Mark and I, our ass cheeks are on the literal edge of the couch. I'm sucked in, like, here we go. And again, you knew Bryce Remsburg, there's going to be just some absolute ridiculousness to it. He gets knocked out a couple of times. He actually takes a Panama Sunrise. There's some confusion between MJF and Bryce Remsburg.
How Adam Cole didn't realize by the time he had landed on his feet, and he's like, oh, I'm still going to go through with this thing, even though the guy that is supposed to be in front of me shouldn't have a shirt and muscles, and I'm about to hit one on a guy with a striped shirt. And
he was already locked and loaded. He couldn't stop. You know what I mean? Like, he was in the zone, but it was so good. That spot obviously knocked Bryce out for a while, and Roddy did have something to do with it. He was doing everything that he could to try to help.
Most jealous girlfriend ever.
Oh my God, the most bitter ex-girlfriend you've ever met.
Well, he had everything to do with it like the entire time. He kept coming in and interfering and hitting MJF. He kicked him right in the dick.
Yeah.
Right in the dick. Oh, I don't know how he didn't pop a couple of his beans, because man, he kicked him toe first into his wiener.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been kicked in the wiener, oh man, toe first is the worst. But yeah, Roddy comes in and he tries doing that. He tries throwing him the title so that he, to Adam Cole, and tells him to hit him with the belt.
Right, while Bryce is out.
And just Adam Cole, again, didn't do what we all thought and didn't go the heel route.
But MJF pulled out the Dynamite Diamond ring, put it on, and was going to hit Adam Cole, and he put it back too.
So when Adam Cole got the belt thrown to him, he, like I said, he threw it outside the ring, and by doing that gave MJF enough time. He got the inside rail, rolled him up, got the 1, 2, 3, and MJF is still your AEW World Champion.
Incredible.
This match was the absolute best way to top this pay-per-view off.
It keeps the story going. We don't have to end this better than you, baby, right now.
This pay-per-view went off perfectly. The expectations of everything of this pay-per-view blew me out of the water.
Would you have ever thought that this pay-per-view basically ended with MJF consoling Adam Cole? He went and got him the tag team championship belt, and Adam Cole threw it. He was mad. He was super pissed. Yeah. But eventually they hugged it out in the middle of the ring.
81,000 people chanting "hug it out."
Yeah, and MJF was like, "People still love you. Like, you're still great. People still love you." So he was like hyping him up, like, "You're fantastic. We still have these. Like, don't worry about it. It's all good." Like,
such a good guy.
It could have easily been you, is what he said.
Doesn't it feel so sleazy when he says it? Like,
it does.
He says it and it just feels slimy and gross.
If you didn't
like,
know
I
him,
don't like this.
You'd
that
be
I
like,
this.
Wow, he was so sweet to him at the end.
But knowing how big of a heel he can be, and knowing how polar opposite of what MJF was, 6 months ago?
Oh, I mean, I don't know where they're going.
He was in AEW. He started the first match of AEW All In 5 years ago, and now he's main evented AEW's All In at the biggest crowd of AEW's history.
Walked away the world champion
of pro wrestling history. Walks away as the AEW world champion. Had 2 absolute amazing matches.
Yep.
And he
deserved every minute of it.
He said it in that round table on Busted Open, like, everybody doesn't like somebody who's confident, but he knows how good he is he's just as good as he is confident.
Right.
And there's no denying it.
No.
And that's
if
this
you
isn't
watch
a
that
slight
and
on
deny
Adam
it,
Cole. Like, it takes 2 to tango. It
of
takes
course,
2 to tango.
Of course.
And they both blew if this was the only good match on the pay-per-view, it would have been worth the money that we
exactly
spent.
This is the only thing you watch. It's worth it. But you got to give a lot of props to MJF, because he made Adam Cole look so good. He sells so well. He ate those Panama Sunrises.
There's a chemistry between Adam Cole and MJF that doesn't come naturally to a lot of wrestlers.
No.
It's a very and I'll bring it up, but The Rock and Stone Cold, you've got Undertaker and Kane, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
Yeah,
There's
it's a
just
once in a
chemistry
lifetime
between individuals that when they get into matches together, there's just something special. And these two have delivered in, oh my God, I cannot, beyond words of how much potential this has going forward. With All Out coming up, they just announced there's another one that they're announced on October 1st. I can't remember the name. It's Wrestle Dream. They announced that, and then they said Full Gear will be in Seattle in November,
I think 18th.
So a lot of things to look forward to. A lot of things we could do with everything. I mean, All Out got a few matches announced in the past couple hours. Some
great matches too. Like, really, it's just as much of a must watch as the last pay-per-view was. So
and they
don't
said
think
they're going to turn
this one.
They're going to turn this into a yearly thing when All Out and All In are within a week of each other. I mean, if they put on shows like this, I can't see how they can't pull this off every year. And I don't understand a lot of the hate that AEW gets. And you know what? Maybe I might be a little bit more of an AEW fan than a WWE fan right now. but it's all
Admittedly.
wrestling. It's all pro wrestling.
It was just entertainment from beginning to end.
Oh, yeah.
There was not a moment where I was bored. There was not a moment I wanted to walk away. There wasn't something that I regretted watching.
No,
I
not
think
at
Tony
all.
Khan said it best, and he said this was the best show we've ever put on, and I absolutely agree. It was fantastic. Was there matches I wish I would have seen? Yeah.
Of course. I would have loved to see Chris Statlander in Wembley.
Well, Chris Statlander is going to be fighting it all out against Ruby Soho, so that's something to see.
Right. I just absolute success. They once again blew expectations out the doors.
Yeah.
They
never being over there before. 81,000 tickets.
Yep. And I mean, for as long as they didn't announce any matches, I mean, they had 70,000 plus, and they hadn't announced a single match yet.
Right. And I don't think a single person left disappointed.
They really invested in their fans and trusted that they were going to show up, and goddamn if they didn't show up.
Incredible crowd.
81,035 people.
70 countries, they said. All the people come from
legendary
over 70 countries.
The top paid attendance of all wrestling, as long as you don't count that Korea one.
Right. Incredible, but this is just something to live up to. It's only going to get better and better and better. Wrestling's only going to get
and that's another thing. Why
every year.
People need to stop being so negative about things. Like it doesn't, by any stretch of the means, does this mean that AEW is better than WWE?
No, this
or
should
vice
put
versa.
the biggest fire under WWE's ass to go, wow, did you guys watch that? We got to do that.
Right now, it
just makes everybody
the
better.
ball's in their court. Like, what do you got? What's your next one? Okay, WrestleMania. That's great.
Yep.
When are you going to what are you going to do with WrestleMania in a single day? Like, that's the challenge. Like, this is great for professional wrestling.
Not only performance-wise, but attendance-wise.
Right. It now challenges, like, okay, we're now upping the game.
Exactly.
We're now,
what do you got?
We're making pay-per-views even with what your top pay-per-view is making.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And hopefully they'll beat them so we can just continue this friendly competition of, we just want to have the best show.
Because whenever, any professional wrestling wins, we all win.
Exactly.
And if you're in that camp that you just absolutely hate AEW or absolutely hate WWE, I don't know why.
You're missing out on both ends.
Yeah, there's good things and there's bad things. There's always bad things on both these products. I know we kind of put AEW a little bit over the moon, but there's just as much bad in AEW as there is in WWE. For a few months there, you and I were going gaga for WWE. It's just hit a point right now to we're not interested in it.
It's the storylines, but it's not the entertainment, and it's not the potential, and it's not the superstars from either of these programs that are lacking.
No,
for sure.
There's talent abundant everywhere. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for this episode. AEW All In's a success. We've gushed about it. We've talked about matches. Championships have changed. I don't think there's much more to say.
No.
We've got All Out next weekend. We've got Dynamite Wednesday. We've got title defenses already. More title defenses next week. We've got Raw on Monday. Make sure you follow us at CAW Wrestling Pod. We tweet out every Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Rampage, Collision as much as we possibly can. There's so much wrestling on TV. It's unreal. Impact if we ever get a chance to.
Obviously, we're going to be watching All Out again. So if you didn't do it this week, make sure you put in your predictions and tag us with the hashtag CAW predictions. That way we can see what your predictions are for All Out. I'd love to see
it's just a little friendly competition we have around here.
Love to see what you have. Now, see, this pay-per-view, we actually equaled out. We had the same amount of wins and losses on our respective predictions, which means that you have retained awesome Dudley Boys. I don't even know. It's like a half stein kind of.
Damn Dudley Boys coffee mug.
God, it's sick.
I spent probably $30 too much on this.
It's fine.
It is a WWF branded, so it's an older one, and I'm sure someone out there probably is mad at me because I have coffee stains all over it because I drink out of it, and it's supposed to be a collector's cup, and you can suck my balls.
Hey,
because I love my cup. But I am your CAW predictions champion. Challenge me. I will get better than you on the predictions, no matter what. Bring it on.
Lies.
But thank you so much for listening to us. You can follow me on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it at Gunk Dudley.
And I'm at a bacon party. Thank you so much for listening.
And make sure you check us out every Monday for a fresh episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast where we go over everything WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, sometimes Impact, NJPW, Stardom, Baka Gaijan. If you don't know Baka Gaijan, Deathworm's on it. Chris Brooks, the champion of everything. We're nerds. We watch too much wrestling. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.